His Royal Highness has been off to the football and the high slopes.
And why one source thinks a victory for Prince Harry might not be as easy as it seems. But really, Rupert, I just cannot wait to talk to you about the audacity of Meghan trying to use her HRH title. Hi, all. Welcome to Heirs and Spares, the show that dives into the fascinating world of two of the most recognized royal couples on both sides of the Atlantic. I'm Kinsey Schofield, and I'll be bringing you updates on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle right here in California.
And back in the UK, I'm Rupert Bell, and as usual, I'll be bringing you all the latest news, and I have plenty, about the Prince and Princess of Wales.
Well, let's talk about the football first, because that was such a cute video trending last week of Prince William and Prince George. They're, celebrating, hugging, squeezing, so affectionate, so adorable. Talk to me about what the reaction was over there and how Prince William has really solidified his place when it comes to the Aston Villa fan base.
Oh, well, I can assure you, I'll start first of all. What the thing that was stunning last week was he went on to my team, Aston Villa, aka the Prince William's team, were playing in Paris last week in a Champions League game. Big deal for us. Well, we know it's school holidays. Children are broken up from Lambrook. I can give you more information about that. A school that had the worst ever hot chocolate when I used to play rugby against them when I was a little lad. But anyway, we digress. Because he actually went to the game, and what we saw was he went on to the British sports channel that was covering it, and he was with a friend of mine, Ali McCoist, who, as you know, he big presenter and the commentator, pundit, and was interviewed. And I tell you what, I was watching in a pub because I couldn't get a ticket to go to Paris. So I was watching in a pub, and me and my mate, we watched it and went, boy, he's a good pundit. Because what he proved was he wasn't, he probably drives his wife mad because he probably is absolutely watching the football every night when he's at home. And I can imagine there isn't too much discussion, or he is in one room, and if the Princess of Wales wants to watch anything, she probably has to go into another room if she doesn't want to watch the football. I can see this as a sort of dilemma that happens the length and breadth of any family. It doesn't matter whichever sport it is, there will be a divided loyalty. But he gave this punditry insight into the game, which we all went, wow, he's just not there making up the numbers and just sort of faking this. He actually analyzes it. And then he talked about how much of a bond he has with Aston Villa. And then we saw him hugging every single player before the game, after they came off their warm-up, wishing them luck. And you go, well, this is unusual because
so
you don't. Would you not actually? Yes, they do a sort of occasionally will do a bland interview, but actually he gave an analysis of the game before it. Unfortunately, we lost 3-1, and his analysis didn't actually come right. He said we'd win 2-1, but Ali McCoy said that Paris Saint-Germain would win 3-1, which they duly did. But it was fascinating to see just what it means to him, and he is president of the FA. But more importantly, the joy he has for Aston Villa and the frustrations. And we went 1-0 up, and those pictures that you were alluding to were of suddenly out of the blue, we went 1-0 up, and obviously Williams leaping up.
There's an earthquake happening right here. Here's my emergency alert. I was like, why is everything shaking? Just give me a second.
Oh, this is very good to be on.
Earthquake detected. Drop cover. Hold on. I think we're good now. Hopefully the aftershock isn't much worse than that. Yeah. So
I'll tell you what, Kinsey, that's a first. And you took it all in your stride. But aren't sort of earthquake sort of tremors, that's sort of par for course for living in LA, isn't it?
But we keep being warned that the big one is coming, so that's why I'm starting to get more nervous, because every time I survive one, or every time one seems effortless, I'm like, well, I'm one closer to the big one, and I don't want to be that close. Talk to me about the lower third, because you're also you're not only are you a sports reporter and pundit, but you're also on the TV side of things. How funny was it to see on the lower third, it's a Prince William Aston Villa fan underneath his name, and like that's how he was branded.
Well, I think it just shows that, and it did go viral because I think everybody, the reaction was like, wow, because you quite often see celebrities or politicians who suddenly will adopt a team because they think it's clever, but actually their knowledge is nothing. And it really does prove that football, because he'd even watched the game the night before about what had gone on. And we have the big game on Tuesday night, the second leg. Hopefully, I don't know whether the family holiday, the skiing holiday, has finished because maybe they have to get back for Easter, bearing in mind Easter celebrations. There may be some royal duties that, they may have to be seen in public at the weekend. But I just wondered whether he's told his wife and said, sorry, darling, but we've got to get back for Tuesday night because that's the second leg of the football, as she rolls her eyes and goes, oh, God, oh, well, okay, off you go.
But
I mean,
doesn't
I don't know
Catherine
whether,
love the football too, or
well,
is
she's a
that
sports fan. She's
yeah.
a sports fan. I mean, I am sure we know she loves her sport. We've seen her, and as William has alluded to in podcasts, it's quite competitive when the two of them play sport, whether it be tennis or anything. So, she is a sports fan. So but I'm sure I would hope that William does come to the second leg, maybe with George in tow, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we have a great result. I fear for the worst, but
Well,
but
at least you're
but it is
honest.
good. But it is good that they've been able to have a good holiday, a family holiday skiing. I don't know what the snow's been like in Courchevel, but it's high enough, and even at this time of year, that there will be some snow around. With the children having broken up or already got them off for a break, well, there might still be some decent snow around to enjoy the end of the skiing season in Europe.
I hesitated to share any of the pictures I initially saw of the family skiing. I don't mind on the slopes. I'll share pictures of them on the slopes, I guess. But where I was a little uncomfortable was images of them clearly on like a private porch or something. That's when I think we need to be more respectful and leave them alone. They're on holiday with their children. They've had a rough year. Do you cringe at all, or does that make you uncomfortable at all when you see some of those kind of like, you know, clearly a deep lens photo of somebody hiding off in some bunker, getting pictures of the family while they're sitting on the patio trying to enjoy a private moment?
Well, bearing in mind that brings up what's happened in the past, those skiing holidays past, whether it be with Diana, the children. So it will all be part of their, or certainly the Prince of Wales's memory of childhood skiing when, you'd see an army of paparazzi. And remember, it may not be the British paparazzi or photographers, it will be the European press
Mm-hmm. Yes.
photographers who don't go with the same level of rules. So that's the problem that you face when you go to somewhere like that. I mean, I haven't seen, you're in America, I haven't seen anything published in this country, and I haven't gone looking.
Yeah.
So it's just because the rules are different elsewhere. So
Mm-hmm.
you find it on publications in maybe America, France, of them enjoying their time. And I do wish they could be just left alone to ski like anybody. Okay, maybe one photo op, but not really.
Yeah.
I think they should be allowed to just get on and have a holiday. The photo op was the football
Mm-hmm.
in many ways, because there he is, George is there, he's having a great time, William's having a great time. It ticks all the necessary boxes of them. Okay, he's interrupted his skiing holiday, and is able to go to the football. So
What's so sad about you saying that? Because you're absolutely right, and I'm glad you made that point that it's not, Harry and Meghan really villainize the UK media. So I think it's easy to automatically assume that because it's the Prince and Princess of Wales, this is UK media hiding in bushes, grabbing photos of them on a vacation. But it's not like, it's European. They have different rules, and I wish that they would acknowledge the fact that Princess Diana died under similar circumstances with people that did not have the same rules, trying to get shots that they quite simply didn't need or have to have. They had plenty of Diana from that trip. And I do wish that just everybody would play by the same rules, and all we can do as consumers is not purchase or not look at them or not engage with them.
Well, I haven't seen any. So, I mean, obviously, I've certainly looked at the football stuff because,
Yeah, yeah.
I hoover up anything about Aston Villa, insatiably. So I think this is, and again, I mean, I did see an interview. I don't know when it was recorded, but William talking about the pressure that his mother was under, and you know that she'd be reduced to tears, and we know that that's some of the scar tissue that's been left with Harry, because it would have been uncomfortable. But there is still, there's money still to be made out of shots of the royal family, and we know even in America, it's probably a bit, Wild West as well. They want, photographs of the royal family, and indeed,
Well, but at the same time, we have to acknowledge that the American media has been incredibly respectful to Harry and Meghan. We never see pictures of Lily and Archie. We rarely see pictures of Harry and Meghan. The only reason we saw pictures of Meghan when she was in New York was because she brought an entire Mardi Gras parade with her in the form of 4 cars, 1 police officer, and so American media. I wish they wouldn't have. I wish we wouldn't have published the pictures of the children on William and Catherine's children on vacation. However, they go above and beyond to protect Harry and Meghan, and above and beyond to respect Harry and Meghan when it comes to their children. We never see paparazzi shots of Harry and Meghan's children here.
And that's absolutely right. I absolutely agree. Although clearly Meghan is sailing close to the wind with sort of using them in pictures to promote brands. So it's a getting a fine line for her. She's got to be careful, because if she starts using them to promote her brand in some, subtle way, then people are going to be thinking, well, hang on a minute.
All bets are off.
All bets are off. Whereas Prince William and the Princess of Wales have been quite clear. There's no pictures unless they are seen and controlled at certain times, and that is absolutely right. And I have children's privacy, to me, is sacrosanct and has to be maintained at all times. But you do know, if you're in a public place like a ski slope, you are going to be susceptible to people just with a mobile phone. It doesn't even mean, so it's not an easy thing to police. So someone can put, oh, look who's skiing with me. What do you do about that? You can't, can you?
Right.
It's out there. And that's the problem when you go somewhere like that. But having seen that interview with William talking about the pressure and the skiing cloisters, that's Prince Charles, the King, at times saying, oh, I hated it. And what that famous line he was talking about, one royal correspondent under his breath, I hate that man. I don't know whether you've seen that clip, or whatever the slight quote was regarding them. They didn't enjoy it, but they knew they sort of had to. And it was a bit, the land thinking, right, we just give them one shot and off they go. But that still wouldn't often be enough. I think now people are much more mindful of their privacy and allow them to enjoy a skiing holiday, just like so many other families around the world go at this time of year for a skiing holiday in the Easter holidays, or in America, it'll be the same. To go and just have a good fun time. So it is a difficult one, and it's one that the Prince William and Prince Harry have negotiated in their different ways. But that motorcade, Kinsey, help me out there.
I mean, I'm just reminded of 6th on the call sheet. 6th on the call sheet. Meghan is going above and beyond, trying to make herself look and feel important. And it's exhausting. It is so, girlfriend, you are selling loose fruit spread. You're selling loose fruit spread. You aren't a duchess. You're not a princess. You're absolutely just not. Since we're on the topic of security, can we stay here for a second and discuss Prince Harry's case last week, going in front of a judge? He was there for 2 days, I believe, and then he did an interview, which is just so salacious. Get yourself together, man. And I immediately after pleading with the court, saying he's not safe enough in the UK, this idiot jumps on a plane and goes straight to a war zone. Can you talk me through the logistics of that, or why common sense
Oh,
said, let's do this? This sounds like a good idea.
look, don't forget the Duchess of Edinburgh has already been there. So it's not a first, but I don't think this was approved necessarily by the royal family.
No,
This
of
would have
course
been
not. This was another
organized.
faux royal, you
This
know.
was done through his Invictus Games, who organized it. So he goes and meets injured servicemen and women. Don't have a problem with that in theory. But 1 minute saying my security in this country is absolutely not good enough, but I will hop on and you have to go. It's not something you can just organize, train journeys, everything. All has to be the utmost secrecy. Okay, we didn't know it happened until after he'd been there, which is the norm for these things, because you can't, you are entering a war-torn country. You've just seen what's happened earlier this weekend with 30 odd people getting ready for Easter in a town just being killed from a missile attack. So it's not a straightforward place to go to. But to 1 minute say the security is not good enough in this country, and then to compound it in that interview and saying, it was all a plot to get him to stay by saying, we'll take your security. I thought it was the other reason. Once again, the stories seem to just diverge when
Yeah,
it suits.
yeah.
And and this is the frustration. And then he's sitting and harumphing in court. And of course, the king is on a state visit to Italy, and it's his wedding anniversary. He didn't need to be in court.
No.
This is the whole point. Yet he's in court because that's going to be the story. So as a result, is a major distraction from the king recovering from cancer on an important state visit to Italy, which he loved. He was speaking, there were some significant moments there, speaking to both houses of parliament in Italy, in Italian.
Mhm.
Um,
His secret meeting with the Pope. Yeah, there were a
with
lot
the
of
Pope,
significant
yeah, we're
moments.
just a very, because the Pope is obviously very ill at the moment. And so, had a brief audience with the Pope. I think you have audiences with the Pope. And whereas, so he had that celebrating his wedding anniversary in the country that he absolutely adores. Yet all the headlines were about Harry. And now we're also seeing stories about, well, he didn't stay in a hotel in London, could have stayed in Buckingham Palace, but, people are saying, well, he stayed in the hotel that he had his, pre-wedding night. And it was also just to sort of be near William, or William's out of the country.
Yeah, no, no, I hate it. Prince Harry's olive branch to Prince William.
Yeah, oh,
How lazy and crazy is
oh.
the person that wrote that headline? Go take an Advil. I mean, like, seriously, that is crazy to me. Well, it's just to me watching a 40-year-old man have a hissy fit. Watching a 40-year-old man stomping his feet because he's not getting his way. And you're right, the story does continue to change and evolve. So you think that the royal family was trying to trap you in the UK? Actually, and I know you have your sources as well as I do. Everyone that I talk to that is in any way, shape, or form involved in that household says that they feel a sense of relief that he's gone, that the further he is away from them, the more comfortable they are. There is no way that they had what they were trying to tell him through those negotiations are your actions have consequences, and we're going to spell out those consequences for you. Just because there are consequences, it doesn't mean that that it was some sort of elaborate trap. They were simply just trying to say, if you are no longer a working royal, here are some of the things that are no longer accessible to you.
And this is the problem. He has not engaged his brain cell when it comes to this, because all actions have consequences. Now, by leaving the royal family means there is a different set of rules, unprecedented, as we discovered. This was something that had never happened. Well, okay, it happened with when the king abdicated, before the war. That was a different set of circumstances.
And
But actually,
they were much harsher to him, Rupert, and I would argue that
yeah,
they should have been harsher to Harry.
well, he was sent. Well, the Duke and Duchess of Windsor was sent off almost, into exile, um, And obviously, it was the time of the Second World War, so it was all quite an interesting time. But for Harry, he did not, he thought he was, by his sense of entitlement, I am still a member of the royal family, so I'm going to be treated the same, even though I don't want to do anything on your behalf.
Well,
Now,
we should stress, I think that Prince Harry was going to try to force half in, half out. And the reason
oh,
he justifies all of this is because he's saying, well, I wanted to be half in. Well, that wasn't an option for you. So it doesn't matter what you wanted. You can't be half in, half out. You're either all in or you're all out. And so, and I think he wanted to stay half in for the perks, not for the, now they keep stressing they wanted to continue their work for the Queen. You know what? You stomp all over the Queen's grave when you repost the message from the Ukraine, whoever calling you HRH. They when you fake curtsy on Netflix, they dance all over this woman's grave. I don't want to hear it. And I think that it's just watching a grown man try to continue the manipulation of the media. I wonder how much in PR meetings there was discussion about how they could distract from the Senabale chaos with Prince Harry's trip to London, how much he could take back the victimhood narrative by going to London and reminding everybody he feels unsafe. You know, how much did they want to distract from King Charles's trip? I don't know. It was incredibly disrespectful for him to do so. And you'll remember how when Prince Harry, I can't believe I didn't look this up because I spaced on this last week. But do you remember King Charles had a huge state visit somewhere when Prince Harry asked Kensington Palace Prince William and Jason Knopf to release the statement defending Meghan Markle when they first started dating, and that distracted from a very important visit that King Charles had too. Like, he's just totally self-consumed.
Well, this is the problem. And even this week, you can see what the narrative is. It's to say, I'm the most important member, and why aren't you treating me like I should be deserved? The sense of entitlement is wrong. The aren't the really good members of the royal family just get on with it.
Yeah.
They know it's you're born with it. You in some sense you have no choice, and your hands are tied. And he talks about, well, he didn't like that. Well, okay, well, if you don't like it, then off you go and do what your other thing. But I'm not sure he's got the intellectual capacity to do anything else.
What a nice way for saying he's an idiot. He's a complete freaking idiot. I love that about you. Very British. But that's my argument, is he said that even if he fails in this case, that he's going to continue to fight this because he feels like it's an injustice that he wants to magnify. And my argument is life's not fair. Life's not fair for anyone. We just don't have millions of dollars to sue people over it. To me, it makes him look like a child, a spoiled brat.
Well, he is. And so the Home Office in this country are not going to leave him high and dry should he come here, because there is all, and they haven't, and they wouldn't. And, if he lets people know that he's coming, it's going to be not a problem. And they'll assess every trip on the security information that they have available and make sure, because no one wants anything to happen to him. Let's be quite clear. But he wants it all singing, all dancing, because that puffs him up, puffs Meghan up. And actually, that's probably why she was seen cleverly being photographed with four great big cars blocking up the streets of New York, to say, well, look at the security I need. Well, there are enough high-profile people who go around New York who probably just need the one, maybe a car in front or a car behind or something. But to have four, including hers, was just over the top. I mean,
it's
I'm
ridiculous.
Sorry.
It's ridiculous. If I saw Meghan Markle on the street, I would walk in the opposite direction. I don't understand, is it Beatles mania that they're afraid of? And I'll be honest, they are more in danger in my country where we have open carry laws then they're in danger in the UK. Prince Harry's insistence on an armed guard, I have a hard time processing when guns aren't as available as they are in, they're much more available in my country than they are in your country. It's all just, why does my brother get something I don't? It's all just the spare syndrome that he suffers from, that Meghan Markle lit the fire under. Did you see in the Daily Beast that a source said winning the case won't restore his security? All it will mean is that Harry will score a technical point, that the way the decision was made was wrong. So even if Harry, they say, miraculously wins the narrowly focused challenge he is now engaged in, there is no way he will ever receive full-time security in the UK ever again. So to your point, there's really no reason for him to be there. It's all theater.
Yeah, it is. And that's the point. And he didn't need it. If it's a technicality, and there may have been some grey areas because it was an unprecedented time, they didn't really know what to do about this. And so off he goes to Canada to begin with. Well, there's a whole raft of things they've got to resolve and sort out. That's why it's so frustrating. And because people are just going, why is he wasting all this money?
Yes, because it's not just his, it's yours, Rupert. Like we know he's spent over $1 million on this. And I think the court has spent in taxpayer money, I imagine at some point in time, over $500,000 or more.
Exactly. And if it's only arguing over a technicality, then this is a waste of everybody's time. When he comes to me, it comes down to the fact that Meghan does not want to come here, and he's looking up. He's saying he's got an easy way of saying, sorry, they're not giving us the security we need, so you don't need to come here. It's as simple as that.
And it moves their victimhood storyline a little bit more. And then I also read, and I'm taking this with a grain of salt, but I also read that he might use this to write some more. What is your opinion about that? I mean, I immediately dismissed it when I saw that headline because I thought surely he's done enough to dig his own grave. But there have been a couple of actions over the last few weeks by Harry and Meghan, who did go quiet when it came to war with the Windsors, that have made me think, oh, they're back in. They're ready and willing to fight. And maybe he's just feeling so helpless over Senabale that he's like, I'm just gonna go guns blazing.
Because this court case, the furore around Senabale, which as we said, I've spoken about before, he said, she said, we don't quite know the whole gamut of the events, how they unfolded. But again, that at no stage does he ever go look introspective and say, all this rubbish is happening around me. It's always everybody else's fault, and that can be true about lots of people, particularly in America. Everything else is everybody else's fault. I think you know who I'm referring to. It's never, it's always everybody else. And in Harry's case, he thinks exactly the same. It's always everyone else's fault. They haven't done my bidding. And Meghan is feeding that. And what was sad last week is he's defended his wife through thick and thin, right? Have we heard one thing about him, even her saying just one little thing? Oh, I'm so proud of what my husband is doing with regard to this court case. I'm not sure we've had a single quote with her regarding that. She's not even said one thing about, and she's been going to Invictus Games. This would have been an easy PR win and saying, just one of her Instagram, picture of her husband, right, in Ukraine, on her Instagram, with those servicemen and women who are injured. So proud of my husband being in Ukraine.
Well, what she did post was cake that he brought back with the random arm or fingertip of an invisible child, and saying something like Papa brought back cake from Ukraine or something. And it just something very, something that made me want to upchuck. But you're right.
No, it's anodyne. I mean, the real mess with her social media following, she could put something really positive about what Invictus Games instead of just using Invictus Games in her case as a photo op. Which
Exactly.
is when she, here was something, she, in a way, that would have been saying, look what my husband is doing. He's gone into the front line. He's promoting his charity, which would have been a good PR win if you think about it, given that his other charity has had a bit of a fallout and it's Meghan who's considered at fault of it. Right? So all she had to do, get one of the photographs of him there and put it on her Instagram feed and saying, so proud of H or whatever. Yeah, been off to Ukraine. Thank you very much for Invictus Games. Really proud. Such an important anything. It would have been a no-win PR opportunity. So show some support for her husband. We see nothing.
No.
We know William is, always saying things about his wife and supporting her and made a point of it.
I love that too, because he'll say like Catherine's more of the expert in that arena. Like he definitely elevates her. He'll say, "Oh yeah, Catherine was talking. Catherine's better at that than I am."
Yeah, and then you go, well, of course, obviously this week it's interesting. Although the court case was, always predetermined, but of course that podcast, which we haven't talked about yet, Kinsey. I mean, there's quite a lot going on. Quite a lot going. Anyway, I think your reaction told it all of what I thought of it, because that was the most self-indulgent 45 minutes I've ever heard, which again frustrates me because she's missed the point of what she should be trying to do. Get this lady, found her a bumble, to talk through the nitty gritty of what all the things she pulled together to make that successful. Yet all we heard is that Meghan gets up at 3 o'clock worrying about packaging. Yeah. Well, that seems to be the big takeaway. Okay, one or two other things that we didn't know about, but again,
I was angry about that stuff too. I don't want to hear about your health issues. That's not why I tuned in.
But why didn't it come out in the spare book? He could have talked about that in the book. About
I'll tell you why. Because Meghan did not like the amount of empathy and compassion that Catherine, the Princess of Wales, received for 12 solid months, and Meghan thought, well, I'm going to insert myself in the conversation and see if I can get some similar attention. I know that feels pretty petty to say out loud, but it does seem like she's always like, no, but look at me. I've had it worse. I've had the same thing. I did that too. It's like, just let your get. And how is that related to Meghan doing anything with As Ever? It's completely unrelated to Meghan building a business.
Yeah, and it seems like, you got to have your mate, and then it's basically sounds like sort of a giggle fest. And this woman who she's with, okay, but it's two women leading lifestyles that none of us understand. But at the same time, we've got that going on. But at no stage did she just once, with everything that's going on, get her PR people just to put out a quiet picture of, her husband. There's no obvious, it's all about her story and her narrative.
And
not
her
about
success. Her success.
In inverted commas, which is fine. She may be making money out of these products. Well, I don't know.
Well, when you have to send an email to everybody that bought the honey to tell them that their honey is actually not in stock and not coming, but they can pick a free item, you're going to send them a refund. And in addition to that, you're also going to send them a free jar of honey. I think you've pretty much... That's what I call a loss. There's no matter how much she's trying to sell that honey for, to have to ship off 2 free products in addition to a refund, that's a loss.
And this is the problem for her, because she don't think outside. Actually, it would look good if she just did something for Harry, who's basically, if you think about it, given up everything.
Well, also, I have heard, and it annoyed me that I saw it reported in the New York Post last week, because we might have had the conversation, but I know that I had reported a month or two ago that I and through other people was hearing that Prince Harry was uncomfortable with the presence of the children on social media. And it was really a back and forth. How much are you going to show? Let me see. What's the caption going to say? You realize that if we give them an inch, they'll take a mile. I have heard that there is a tug of war going on when it comes to how much they're going to show the children online and what the ultimate objective is. And the ultimate objective is to move her business forward, to hijack headlines. When things go negative, she posts a vague photo of her daughter. So now everybody's like, Princess Lily, so cute. We haven't even seen her face. Like, I'm not, whatever. And when I feel like we're being blatantly manipulated, and that's always with the children. A lot of times it's with Meghan randomly announcing health issues that she had in the past. I refuse to even engage. I'm not going to give her that headline. I'm not going to give her that conversation. But I've heard that Prince Harry is unhappy with that. So to know that Prince Harry is in a no-win position in London when he goes and sits in this courtroom. He's claiming he received this devilish intel, secret intel behind closed doors that has him fired up. We know that he's humiliated over Senabale and some of the accusations that have been thrown at him over the last few weeks. And back home, he's got Meghan Markle in total selfish mode, chugging away at all of her own little businesses and trying to use the kids to promote herself and her brand. This is a man that is deeply unhappy. This is a man that has not found himself in a great position in 2025. And the least she can do, to your point, is to post a picture of her husband and say, I'm so grateful for the life he's given me, for the opportunities he's given me. And look at how selfless he is in Ukraine working with these veterans.
End of. It could have been so simple, but she doesn't take PR advice, as we know. Throughout her time, Meghan's always had the philosophy she knows best. And so the people have to do her bidding, who work for her. And, whatever it is, that was one of the staff in royal household here talk about, well, there would have been some who would have liked the way that she came in and sort of, I'm not saying bull in a china shop, but went in and sort of rattled everything. But that was her, coming in with a strong view. But trying to change the royal institution that's been going for centuries with a sort of overnight philosophy, that just, when you look at what the Princess of Wales did, it's been a slow understanding of the system. You can't change a system like the royal family overnight. You can by just understanding and moving generationally forward. That's what the royal family's always done. It's evolved. Yeah. That's why going back to William, seeing him in a much more open way at the football, doing all that, much more engaged, much more sort of reticent. But even we're seeing it now with the king. It looks much more relaxed and happy to be out there meeting, engaging with people. And so his son's helping him like that and saying, well, this is actually working. There is a fine line. But for Harry and Meghan, what have they got? He can't go on the streets of, no one's going to shake. Well, they might say, hi, watch it, Harry, probably as he's walking around into the shop. But, I think he's probably left alone. I think he's probably lonely. Because there was a wedding of one of his mates and he didn't go to.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And
all he had to do was show up a few days earlier and he could have attended that wedding.
Well, again, okay, you say, well, Meghan might have been busy leaving him with the kids. I don't know. Obviously she was able to go to New York. Someone's minding the kids. There's a lot of staff who are keeping that show on the road. They are not. They're not parenting like most people.
No, I know that there have been some nannies that there's been kind of a cycle of nannies too, and they're all, of course, forced to sign NDAs that terrify them.
Well, I'm absolutely sure. Because if they do, if one breaks cover, then they'll get sued within an inch of their life. Very hard, and presumably the employment agency will then be sued, and all sorts of things. So it's that's NDAs probably in your neck of the woods are probably quite common in these circumstances.
It just feels more sinister when you've seen the carousel of employees that we now lovingly refer to as the Sussex Survivors Club.
Well, yeah, and I tell you what, be one hell of a reception. But anyway, but it is frustrating, and I feel for Harry in that respect, that his wife doesn't seem to be reciprocating the support that he's shown for her by he's dropped everything, gone to America, and he's followed his wife. Look, there are lots of working couples around the world who someone says, right, we're going back, and you have to make a decision that one member of the team is suddenly, right, we got an overseas posting somewhere. What do you think? I mean, I know some friends of mine, a lady, a friend of mine whose wife suddenly got a really good offer of a job overseas. Well, he had to say, well, actually, better go. Do you see what I mean? And that's quite normal practice. But this just feels like a one-way street, and there's no give now in the other way. Mm-hmm. And that, in particularly when she's living off what he's given her.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is the Duchess of Sussex title.
Well, let's talk about titles. This is a great segue into one of the best gifts that he ever gave her, which is the HRH title. And be patient with me because I have a couple of quotes from sources. But I'll ask you first before I start reading into the quotes. Meghan Markle, the story has provoked outrage among friends of the royal family because she published a message addressing herself as Your Royal Highness. Now, Harry and Meghan formally surrendered her Royal Highness titles during the Megxit negotiations. It was like a friendly handshake, like a gentleman's agreement, but they agreed to stop using them after they quit the royal family and left the UK. Before I read some of these reactions from King Charles's friends and Prince William's friends, talk to me about your initial reaction to this, because I'm appalled. I think that this is another my name is Sussex, right? Another Meghan Markle moment where she is trying to poke the bear. She is trying to remind us all that she's royal. She wants to demand that we acknowledge her as a royal, and she quit her job, and she's shilling jam, loose fruit spread, and I just refuse to do it. So talk to me about your initial reaction when you saw this story.
In a country where they don't have titles, and you're using it, I'm sorry, stop it.
You're delusional.
You're delusional. This is America, where it's the land of opportunity. It doesn't have titles. It's a meritocracy, in theory. That you can get on and everyone can. There's no such thing as, everyone has a fair crack at the whip.
Yeah.
This is wrong. She is not. They've given that up. Now, they are the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, but she's using, because that's her identity. And this is the hypocrisy. She does not want to be in this country, but she wants everything that goes with it. And that's the same for Harry, because he still wants to think that he's a member of the royal family, and that entitles him to certain. But actually, no, you've made a career choice. You could have been able to bumble along in your world, and everyone would have thought you're absolutely wonderful. Mm-hmm. Just get on with it. Do this, do that, play second fiddle, get on with it. No.
Yeah, wait, before you go into that, he said something weird last week about how they just wanted to create a happy, safe home. And if they would have had the freedom to do that, all of the tension with the royal family would have fizzled out. What did you make of that? Like, you could have made a happy, safe home in Windsor. You were off away from everybody in your little Windsor house that you customized with yoga rooms or whatever. I don't understand. You had the freedom, you had the power to do that. You decided to leave.
Yeah.
In fact, remember, there were negotiations where the royal family tried to get them to stay. And that was only after they announced that they were leaving to the public. They didn't announce to the royal family that they were leaving first. They announced it to the public first. And then the royal family, with websites that already had their next steps on them, how they were going to work with independent media and grassroots media. They'd already set new guidelines and rules for themselves. The royal family finds out after the fact and then tries to pull them in for negotiations, the royal family did not shove them out, didn't push them out the way that Harry and Meghan are trying to rewrite history.
Well, they're making the royal family the villains of the piece.
Yes.
Because they weren't able to control the narrative. Well, it's pretty hard. The only one who should be able to control the narrative ultimately is the king, the Prince of Wales to some extent. The rest are all sort of there to help the royal machinery work. He then took a choice, but she still, by any reference to Her Royal Highness, and you see the mock sort of coat of arms and stuff that you see for as ever and everything, it's, all going back to her somewhere where she doesn't even want to be, but she's living.
And she was
something.
Only there for 18 months, Rupert. Princess Diana sat there for 16 years, feeling uncomfortable.
She despises, and yes. She despises. And this is where I think people are absolutely at their wits' end. And going, you don't want it, but you have to let everybody know that you are a Royal Highness. Well, sorry, that just makes you look even worse.
Yeah.
Just get on with it. You could be successful, but you have to
listen to other people.
Yeah. Well, no. Well, therein lies her big problem. The only person she is queen of her court, and everybody. So that's the point. When she was in the royal family, she could not be queen of the court. She was just
six on the call sheet.
Yeah, 6 on the call sheet. Yeah, and that's not, but in Suits she wasn't 6 on she was about 6 on the call sheet there, so she should have been used to it.
Yeah. But she was so excited because she thought she was showing Suits when she got to announce that she was dating Prince Harry and had one leg out the door, because remember, she had to fight to get a car. She had to beg them to send a car to pick her up, claimed security issues there too. So this Prince Harry has met his match when it comes to paranoia. Let's read over some of these quotes and I'll get your reaction. Some of these quotes to Harry or Meghan using this title. And it was as simple as cropping out if she wanted to share the message, but she didn't want there to be any chaos, all she had to do was crop out the introduction of the email, which we know she's capable of the crop function because we haven't seen her children's faces in 6 years. Okay. So it's one of the quotes is, I believe this is from one of King Charles's associates. It's outrageous. Every time you think they can't make it worse, they make it worse. The deal with the HRH was a way to stop them cashing in while letting them walk away with pride and dignity and trust. And now Markle is using her HRH on a website which seems to exist to sell jam. That's an incredible point, because by posting this on her Instagram, where she sells her favorite mascara, and she's shilling her honey that you can't actually get your hands on. She is using that title to sell products. She's to endorse these products. I think that the king's confidant has a very good point there. But what do you say to people that reach out to me and argue I put a little bit of the blame on King Charles? He should have shut them down sooner.
Well, this is because it was his son. He didn't feel he could. It's his son.
Well, isn't it true that he met with... And this is why I hate watching The Crown. I had to watch The Crown for work, but I typically don't like to watch shows that are scripted because I don't want to blur the lines of real and fake. But is it true that Prince Charles, as a young man, felt some sympathy for his uncle and established a good relationship with him, despite the rest of the family saying that Wallace and Edward were these useless traitors?
Well, he may have done. I think, it was the real problem was the Queen Mother.
But King Charles was incredibly close to the Queen Mother, which is why I would assume he wouldn't have any.
It would have been complicated. It would have been complicated because the Queen Mother knew that this was, her husband wasn't supposed to be king, and yet he was thrust into it. Then he was king during the Second World War and the stresses, the strains. and then obviously dies relatively young. I think he was only 56 years of age, I think, if my memory serves me right. He
Yeah, very
or
young.
maybe very young. So this is the I think for the king, trying to be a loyal father and trying saying, right, I'll help you. But trouble is, even he's probably going, his eyes are rolling now, going, I don't know what else to do. But he probably, they are the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. They aren't supposed to use that. I still don't see why they want. I'm okay. That's their title. That's their name. And there are probably other dukes and duchesses who may be living in America because that's where they've moved to. I don't know. I mean, um, you, but no one makes a, what one of the Prince and Princess Michael's children is an actress. Why daughter-in-law is an actress, and so I think they have a title. Yet because he's Lord Frederick Windsor, so she will be Lady, but we don't hear about her.
No,
And
I
you
think
think,
she's on. I think she's on. She's gorgeous. I know who you're
yeah,
talking about. I'm spacing on her name, and I'm so mad at myself
yeah,
for it. But
yeah,
she's on a lot of the period pieces that I
yeah,
watch. And you're right, she doesn't go by her title. There's not a lot of she doesn't market herself in that way. She doesn't do she auditions, she gets the
yeah.
job, she does the work, but she's not going on all the morning shows talking about her relationship with the royal family. That's
Uh,
certainly not it.
exactly, and you think particularly, in her case, her sister-in-law, husband, what happened there, all the sort of tragedy of that. You don't hear anything, and this is again, I think, is the total frustration for the royal family and the king in particular that they are cashing in, and the whole business model
Oh,
is
it's
linked.
Sophie Winkleman, and good Lord, is
Sophie
she a
Winkle.
gorgeous woman.
Yeah. And she's been in numerous TV series and things. So you actually look at it and go,
Belgravia is what I love her in, yes.
yeah, and you go, what's going on here? You don't want it, but you do want it. And without it, you are nothing.
You're
It's
nothing.
as simple as that.
And are you hearing, because I have heard that this is Meghan Markle poking a bear. Prince
Mm,
William wants nothing more than to strip them of anything that gives them this type of value or association with the British royal family.
mm,
One of the stories circulating late last week was that Meghan would like to touch base with King Charles for reassurance that they will have their titles. I know it's treacherous to even discuss, but even if he passes away, she wants reassurance that those titles will remain and won't be stripped from them. And I'm over here going, she would have the audacity to try to have
yeah,
that conversation. We saw her write him a handwritten letter, wondering why no one apologized to them after the Oprah Winfrey interview, under the bizarre assumption that Prince Charles was sitting there with Camilla watching the Oprah Winfrey interview. I bet you he hasn't given that interview more than 5 minutes of his entire life. Um, but I do hope that Prince William strips them of everything he possibly can when he becomes king. Personally, sorry.
Well, I just think they need somehow to be told you cannot commercially use the name. You are entitled to, but the way you are doing it, this is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But she will ignore it anyway because
Yeah,
she'll say,
that's what we're seeing right now. This
yeah,
complete,
and she will,
this is why she didn't work in the royal family, Rupert, where it's on display. Her blatant disrespect for protocol, for the
oh,
system, for rules. If it does not fit with her objective, which is fame, celebrity, and
oh,
money, then she's going to break the rules. She's a rule breaker. She has no respect for the way that and everything's in place for a reason. There is the system's in place for a
yeah,
reason. But when we talk about the pride, dignity, and trust that the royal family wanted to ensure that they had upon leaving, that same respect was not given to Wallace and Edward. And I don't understand why Harry and Meghan, because there was a clear resentment when they sat down with Oprah Winfrey and did that
oh,
interview. There was a bitterness and an anger. How they don't see that they were allowed more than Wallace and Edward, to me is, well, it's just two people that don't open a history book.
Well, and this is the problem. And again, the little grey cells are not working as Hercule Poirot says, my little grey cells. Well, Harry's little grey cells aren't working very much when it comes to this. Well, in the courts last week, even then last week, we've got back to that famous phrase, recollections may vary. Everything about Harry and Meghan, the Oprah info has been found to be, now they're sort of watering it down because they've been exposed at various times. And Harry lends himself to, he's hostage to his own fortune, to sort of put a sort of security analogy on it, because he allows himself to get himself into a pickle over what he says. He may have been angry, storming out, because he probably was feeling that the court case was going against him. So then he has a hissy fit, storms out, goes and meets a journalist from the Daily Telegraph and says, this is all wrong, and sort of has a stream of consciousness interview with the guy, and the guy's probably thinking, oh, happy days, I've got myself an exclusive here. Yet it has taken the thunder away from his father and everything that's going on. This is the frustration, because their side of the story is polar opposite to what probably the other side think is the real story. And somewhere, yes, some of the stories may be in the middle, but at the moment, their story is absolute clickbait to have a go at the royal family. And that's why there is no trust between particularly Harry and his brother, because William is just thinking, what's he going to do next?
It really is a testament to how skilled the palace communications team is, and how well organized and strong they are, in what a strong brand in general the British royal family is. Because I think that the strength of the British royal family in the chaos of Harry and Meghan throwing these grenades has been never complain, never explain, just get on with it, like you said. Instead of reacting to every little slight, that we see them showing up at the next homeless shelter, or on a documentary discussing domestic violence within the home. We see King Charles shaking hands, knowing that hours ago he was having some sort of treatment for his cancer diagnosis. So we just see this family that is focused on the future and looks forward and makes it about other, and constantly is making about uplifting and elevating other people. But with Harry and Meghan, they moan that other people tell their story, and they've overshared to the point, and they've exaggerated to the point where they've really turned the public off when it comes to their side of the story.
Well, I mean, over here, there's a lot of eye rolling about anything that Harry does, yet he can end up on the front page of the cover, because let's be honest, he is news. Because that he's in court. Royal members of the royal family don't often go to court. They try and stay out because it's not worth the hassle more often than not. And yet here he is wanting to be seen flying unnecessarily. Okay, if he'd just gone to Ukraine, everyone would have gone happy days. He's doing something to cover up for the chaos that is around Centre Bali. His other big passion, and that's probably one of the reasons why he went and said, right, I need to do something here. But again, the trouble is we view everything they do now with a deep-rooted cynicism. That's the problem. So they have got.
Is that the problem, or is that just proof that we are working with more of our brains than they are?
But this is their PR problem.
Yeah.
Because everything they do, everyone's going, is that really what's going on? So they have got a huge mountain to climb to endear themselves. I mean, of course, we know there's a big Sussex squad out there who will lap up everything that she says, and you'll cop some flack from the Sussex squad and or whatever. We know it's out. It goes with the territory, right? It's fair play. Of course, there's going to have their supporters, but they are in the minority, whatever they say, because in America, yes, she goes to a premiere or goes to see whatever musical it was, but to go with a go back 4-car motor, what other celebrity goes around New York with that kind of celebrity, unless
what other reality star I think you meant to say.
Exactly. I'm sorry. It again, you know. And
I
of
just
course, when
think
they
of
went,
how, you know, when I go back to the quote of pride and dignity and trust. Remember when it was Wallace and Edward, they, I don't know if I can use this word on YouTube, but let's give it a shot. They slut shamed Wallace and talked about how she went over to China and learned all of this stuff. And, you know, I know that I'm horrible in the fact that I'm constantly bringing up the pilot episode of 90210, where we first meet Meghan Markle when her head pops up out of someone's lap in a car doing you know what. There were ways that they could have gone after Meghan, that they could have humbled Meghan, and they could have made it to where Meghan could not marry Prince Harry based on things that exist out there that she did herself. They didn't. They allowed these two to marry. They were kind to her. They welcomed her into the fold. And I just think that Harry and Meghan don't acknowledge how lucky they have it. But really quickly before I let you go, I want to read this quote to you. A friend of Prince William said, "It's actually quite a clever way of testing the water because there is deniability there about Meghan sharing this Your Royal Highness title. She can say, well, I just wanted to publish this nice letter to raise awareness for Ukraine. And oops, they got my name wrong. But oh, actually, now that I think of it, I never gave the title up anyway. And maybe I will start using it again. It's a step in the wrong direction, basically away from the agreement. You'd have to be an idiot to believe that she didn't know exactly what she was doing when she posted that message unedited to her stories." I could not agree more.
She controls everything. She, however disastrous it may be playing out, but she signs off on absolutely everything. She will know what's going on, and that would have been, well, it's too glaring an issue to have not spotted if you're proofreading it. So ultimately, it's the same old, same old. And, you know, it'll be interesting to see how the next edition of her podcast goes, whether that, you know, that's in the can already. So will it be any different? Will anything be any different in a week's time? But ultimately, you've got to say Harry has got to somehow find a way of getting a grip of his life and actually being the man that she probably thought he might have, that she thought might the one she was marrying, this dashing prince. Well, at the moment, he just looked like an angry, dispirited 40-year-old. And that's sad because he did have a joie de vivre that endeared himself to all and sundry.
Yeah, it gone.
It's solid gone, man. That's my best attempt at American accent, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that again. But there we go.
Anyway. Agree. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just going to say, up the villa for our second leg, and hopefully we'll see lots of shots of Prince William celebrating with us at the Villa Park on Tuesday evening.
Well, I'm going to go collect everything that fell off the shelves after our little earthquake. Agree with us, disagree with us, let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. Thanks so much, Rupert. Obviously, I enjoyed our conversation because I kept you for over an hour. Sorry.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. Well, as they say, well, you can remain very calm. Are you telling me things have been falling off your shelves as we've been recording this?
Just when the initial earthquake started, because I started to see things shake, and like I got little stuffed animals around that started to move and fall, and so I've just got to go pick them up.
Okay, well, the earth moved for you, but there we go. Thank you, Kinsey.
Thank you. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.